Hello, welcome to RISA Live. My name is Debbie Penko, and I'm going to be showing you through lateral design in RISA-3D. And so starting out, we're going to talk through kind of this steel building I have just to kind of see a little bit about this building that we're looking at. It's just a steel frame building, a concrete core. We've got in the middle of this some braces. Just a typical simple building that we put together, and I actually received this from a colleague of mine, so I'm going to take a little tour before we start to apply the lateral loads to it. So as I get this model, the first thing I typically do is just to understand where we're at so far. So looking through applying the loads on this, we can see what has been applied. And I see that I have applied some gravity loads here. So I have dead loads with some maybe equipment pieces of load on the top there as point loads. We can actually click on any of these loads to see they're live. I can adjust them if I wanted to. But in this case, this looks pretty good. I can see the dead load here. I can see the live load that's been applied, and it looks like I also have some roof live load. So it's been divvied up between the different loads there. And I'm also going to see what we've got when we start this gravity design. So looking at this load combinations, I can see that there is some loads applied for deflection, so dead and live and dead plus live. We'll also see that there is just your standard strength design applied to it. So before you go farther than that, you'd always kind of want to double check that the codes are set up the way you'd expect. So looking into here at the hot rolled code, I see that's LRFD, which is why we have the strength design. And I can kind of go from there for concrete, also see what kind of codes you want to have in there. So using 2014. So now I would just run some gravity design. So the way I would do that here is I'm just going to say, let's solve this model and just run a batch and envelope. I always run the batch on the envelope. I figure it's kind of the best of both worlds. You'll get everything, and you'll see that my computer is running through multiple cores. I have a laptop here, so it's not a huge machine, but I have 4 cores that I can utilize, and it ran through and checked all of those load combinations together. So when we get a design like that, we get all those loads applied. The first thing we do is we check, I always go to deflections. I check to see what my deflections are like. My node reactions and my deflections are the very first thing. So node reactions are just a really great way to understand what happened at the base of the model. What was my total Y, as I applied basically my Y is my gravity vertical loads. So in the Y direction, what is my node reactions there? And that's kind of always a back of the envelope to say, does this make sense? In my load combination 5, I have this much load coming through. We're going to do that once we apply the lateral 2. That's kind of always a good rule of thumb to check your node reactions and then your deflections. What do your deflections look like? Before you get into anything, you can do a sort and just figure out, hey, let me sort this and see what is my absolute max to absolute min, and see whether that makes sense. And I have a deflection of 2 inches, which is pretty decent for this model, but maybe we're seeing some long spans. So I always also look at that graphically. So I take a look and see what the deflection looks like. You can see that live on the screen changing, and this is just under your gravity loads. So before we get into the lateral, we can see we've got a lot of deflection. So that might be something we want to start to worry about in the gravity side before we jump into lateral. So I would go into code check as my next thing. The next thing I can do in code check, this is telling me, does this meet the code that we just required here? And I'm going to sort all of these. So I'll do a sort and say, let's look for absolute max to absolute min. And we'll find out that we have a code check. We have some failures. They're in red. And that's showing me that, yeah, probably we need to worry about some things before we move on to lateral. So I'm going to do is I really like showing here, this is the pretty cool feature, is that you can highlight. So I'm going to go into a wireframe view here. So we'll just take, this is what looks like our section sets. And if you're not familiar with section sets, that shows us how we've grouped members together. So joists, beams, columns are all color-coded, and we can see that they are in the section sets or groupings. So when we want to size things up in this model, and let's take a look here. I'm going to actually go just and show, we'll go back and take the color coding off completely, and we'll just take all of our deflection off there. So we're just looking at this. We can see, let's just turn a label on for a second here. Let's see what kind of shapes we're working with. So we've got W12 by 30s, W8 by 28. So these are all wide flange. We've got some hot rolled here as our columns. And so what we're going to do is now we see that this is going to be the members we said are failing, are these ones here are failing. So what we want to do is just size them up. So I'm going to highlight the ones that are all failing in my screen here and right click and say show selected in current view. So when I come back out here, I see these are the ones that are failing, which kind of makes sense, right? Those are the longer ones, spans here. I've got openings in this area. So this is kind of the ones that are probably going to need to be sized up. So what I'll do is I'll have the program use my suggested designs, and it tells me what would be a better shape. And so I have a few things that might be better. It looks like it's trying to size the beam from a W12 by to a W16 by. And I think I'm going to do that for sure. I don't want to size those columns down for now. So I'm going to keep those up the size that they are. I'm going to keep the vertical braces okay. But let's go with the beams and the joists and let's upsize those. So by unchecking the use suggested, I just rerun this whole solution and say resolve with suggested shapes. And I'll go ahead and rerun the solution. It's going to size the section set. So basically everything that was a joist or everything that was a beam just got sized up, and we're going to see whether that now works. One thing I forgot to mention, and it's good to talk through, is that the fact that we have our diaphragms on the screen. So diaphragms help to distribute the loads laterally. So that would be one of the most important pieces to have when you're talking about RISA-3D with lateral loads, is that you're going to need to have some kind of a diaphragm. Now what this simulates is the buildings. As each floor level, we would have framing, maybe a concrete deck or metal deck or something that's going to tie this area together. And in this case, rigid. That means that it's fully rigid. So the other way to do it, you could do something like a semi-rigid diaphragm, which would mean you'd have plates on top of that. Now, RISA floor will also do all the semi-rigid diaphragm, a flexible diaphragm, or rigid. When you're in RISA-3D on its own, that one is going to just be doing the rigid diaphragm. So you've got the rigid diaphragm where you can distribute that load on that level, and that's how we are going to assume that it's going to be applied to the structure. So when we're looking up here, I'm going to go up to in my advanced tab, I have a library of different things here. I have wind and seismic notional loads. These are kind of an additional features that we have in RISA to add these lateral loads. And the fact that there is this rigid diaphragm allows us to do that. So we're going to go ahead and put on the lateral loads. And the first thing you're going to do here is going to go by going into the wind load generator and picking your code. The code will determine a lot of things here. So we'll be able to see what factors are needed. We're going to say 115 miles per hour, exposure C. This is kind of your basics. If you wanted to do a base elevation, for example, if maybe this building was underground by a portion of it, we would then drop that down to 20 feet or 10 feet, whatever that portion is underground, and so it would not receive wind. We can put all the factors in here, and I'm going to say, let's go ahead and say calculate the loads. It's going to clear my results and put those loads right in there. And then I see here I've got loading applied, and this is the calculation sheet. This would be like my hand calc that I might match based on the lateral load I would do. And this is doing our main wind force resisting system. So it's tying it right into the diaphragm at 10 feet, at 20 feet, at 30 feet. I see that it's going to calculate the length and the width of the diaphragm. And then it's going to apply that a QZ here, or a kips per square foot, into that in a windward and leeward direction. And finally, you'll get a force in the X and the Z direction. So when I say generate, it then puts those loads right into the model. And the best way to do that is to figure out, you can just see that right in your model. You'll see it described right on the screen. And I love that you can see the actual load described right there. So if you wanted to zoom in a bit, you can see exactly what's happening, and I can even highlight those new nodes there. If you haven't used this feature in here, we can actually dim select so that the rest of the model sort of goes out into a dim setting, and I can see specifically what these loads are. And these are the loads in the X direction, excuse me, the Z direction. They're also applied in the X direction. You can also see them in a spreadsheet format, and that's also helpful to see specifically what these loads are as they're applied. So we're about 16 kips applied into there and 17 kips at the most in each direction. We have a diamond pattern that it gets applied in, and that diamond pattern helps to show that we're doing partial loading as well. So it applies in the main direction X and Z, and then it will also go into a partial loading. Because you're basically going to be applying this into a rigid diaphragm, it's going to help to add that eccentrically to the model there as the code prescribes. So we'll see that you've got X and Z directions in those different directions, and I'm seeing those point loads. The next piece to do is the seismic loads. And you can just kind of, at first we glance, we always look at the number, 15 kips, roughly 7 kips. And what the seismic loads here, if I jump into those, these are going to be based on some different pieces of information that we're going to do for seismic. So first of all, what is the seismic weight of the structure? And the seismic weight of that structure is just going to be based on the dead load that I've applied. So that deflection one, which is why we really wanted to understand what our gravity loads were. We have that shown here as the deflection weight, our seismic weight. We'll pick our code. And then after we pick our code, we then go down the path very similarly of the factors. Now I plugged in some site factors. I just used I'll jump into here, just use the seismic factors for our office location. So I typed in here our office, and this is a free website. So let's see, town center, let's see, type it in, and drive. This is in Foothill Ranch. And this is the headquarters of our office. We type that in. We put in some of our default settings here, and then we get the parameters we'd want there. So I just plugged in some of these to get some of these factors. This is just off our seismic, for the SEA, but you can get this for all different varieties of locations and try to get these factors. And I took this right into our model here. And into doing that, I plug in these S1, SD1, SDS, and then the TL. And by then, I just go ahead and say calculate the loads. It does a very similar thing where I have like a hand calc. And this is also another way I would typically walk down this, and I would say, does this match my hand calc? Is this as I expected? These factors make a big difference, but the bigger difference that I've always found is if you don't have your seismic weight proper, then you won't be able to get values that make any sense. So I always typically look at that number right there, the weight. Is the weight of each floor level make sense? Does that all calculate into what I think the total weight of the structure should be? And then I can apply those forces in the X and the Z direction. By doing that, I get all of those forces there. So I'm going to go ahead, and once I have all of that confirmed, it's going to be putting in those forces. And those are a lot higher note than our wind. So this structure, we are obviously in California, so it's got higher seismic, but it is very important to note that you're looking at a little bit different numbers here. So seismic is going to play a much bigger part for us. I'm going to place these loads down here on basic load case 13 and say generate. And as I generate it, I'd pop into the basic load cases spreadsheet. And I can see that I now get our earthquake loads listed right here. And they are also in a spreadsheet format where I can expand that and see them right here as well. So that's on the model. It's also shown in there. The other thing to note while we're in our basic load cases spreadsheet, that you can use categories for dead loads like I did and live loads, but you also will see it automatically plugged in those wind and seismic loads for us. And that's super important when we get to the next step, which is putting this all into load combination. This category is what gets used. So we collect all of these loads together in a combination, and when we pop into the load combinations, we'll see that the basic load cases there will coordinate with these numbers here, these categories listed here. So we already have our dead loads like that, but I'm going to close this down here in the background so we can see and jump into the next piece, which is our load combinations. So let's go ahead and get those all set. I'm going to close that right there. And I'm going to go ahead into load combination generator. So in here, I had already done this for our gravity, so that's already been done. I can jump to the wind tab. Now, you have a lot of options in here. You can do eccentric, so you can do the X and the Z. If we want to include those partial loads, we would put the eccentricity in there. And if you want to do quartering, which is kind of coming at it from different angles there, X and Z would allow us to do that. So I'm going to say that generates all of those. And by clicking on that, you'll see I created now 61 load combinations. So lots is happening in the wind. Then I'm going to go over to the seismic, and I'm also going to collect those here. So these combinations, you can use X and Z with eccentric. You can include the row and the EV and the non-orthogonal. All of those options can be to meet the code requirements. So I'm going to click on generate. And if you were ever wondering where any of those information came from, You can get your seismic information right off your global settings here. So in the seismic tab, you would plug in all of this information. So maybe a row for us would be like 2. And you can come back in and adjust these numbers, and that will then adjust the numbers that you're seeing right on the screen here with the SDS and the row. All of that is right here. So you could remember from when we just saw that the wind was really small comparative to the earthquake. So what I'm going to probably do is just kind of turn off the wind for now, because I really want to see a lot more of what's happening in the seismic. So to turn load combinations off, you can just quickly say the solve button, right click, and then you can say, instead of you just fill block, and just leave that blank, and it will uncheck those ones there. So you can do that anywhere you want. I can just pull all these winds off, just say fill block, and I'm just reducing the amount of load combinations I'm running just so that it's not as many, but you can run whatever you'd like, however many you'd want at any given time. So I'm going to say solve the batch and the envelope, and then it's going to run all of those load combinations, again, using my multiple cores of my computer. It'll then solve to find the worst case that's going on in here. So we're counting now towards 85, and you'll see that I really like this, how this ticks off, and we can see the progress as we go down. We then get a solution and a design for all of our members, as well as our wall elements. So we are seeing that the wall is going to be designed as well. So let's take a look, and we'll kind of come back to here. Again, the very first thing I always do, right, we said from the beginning, was we go to our node deflections and just try to understand what's happening in here. Does this make any sense? If we see giant numbers, we might have other problems in the model. So I typically do is say, okay, well, we really were worried about the X and the Z directions. So I then start to sort absolute max from absolute min. And I sort it, and I see about 1 inch of deflection in the X direction. That makes sense to me. So that's kind of in the ballpark of what I would think. I would then also do it as Z directional, and I'm also noting kind of what the load combinations that are governing are the ones that we're worried about. So I can take a look and say, okay, in that X direction, that was load combination 63. That was one of concern, maybe, if it's 1 inch of deflection, the worst case of deflection. So then I would walk down the path and start to see what's happening in that. So let me go ahead and make sure that we see what that looks like. So we switch over to load combination, and then we switch over to see that load combination 65, and we can then see what's going on and maybe in deflection, and see how that is now moving the whole structure to the left. And we're seeing that go in the X and the Z direction there. You can always see at the bottom what you've displayed there. You can also turn on your loads at this point to see what's going on in that. So we see that we're now pushing on this sideways by a lot of kips, 184 kips going in that direction, and we can see that happening. So you've got now you start to walk through the same path of going through your code checks and going to understand how things are working at this point. You can sort it and go through and figure out, okay, this is now still things are failing, so we would want to size back up from there, and we could go on and continue down the path to figure out more things about the structure, including your story drift. We also provide your story drift, which would be helpful at this point to go down your strength level to see what's going on in the different directions and for the load combinations that have governed. We're going to be going into a lot more detail in the coming months here with seismic design. So we'll walk through the path of the seismic detailing options that we provide. We'll also talk more about the new code provisions, and also lots of things with new connection designs that we'll be adding as well. So please stay tuned and see you next time.